Can you see it? Can you feel it? I can feel, I was going to say I can feel the sun, but most of all, I can feel the sunset visually. That is what I feel as we move forward here. Welcome back, Artist Journal, May 21st, 2025. Broadcasting from the high seas of the imagination. My name's Adrian Pocobelli. Defiantly moving into the sunset on my screen here. Luca Bjornsten, who I think, there's not many artists who I've started the program with who there aren't many artists I started the program with. You can tell I need a vacation here. Other than, I think Luca Bjornsten before, with the pizza boxes, which are brilliant. Maybe we'll see those today again. And maybe Kayla Mattis. There hasn't been much. There might be one other artist that was physical. It's not a rule. But so, in a sense, if I thought the most exciting, freshest, whatever, the front page of the newspaper, the imagination, if it demanded, so to speak, for something to be shown that was outside of digital, I would show it. To a large degree, this is an international digital arts program, as I like to call it here. But it's not a rule. Perhaps beyond that, though, it is a journal, probably first and foremost. And so with that, it's always fun to keep things open and unpredictable and everything. So all to say, let's look at the work. A cool Luca Bjornsten. It's not the highest resolution you'll ever find, but you kind of get the point. It looks like Microsoft Paint. Love this part here. Incredible beach paint. And big show note, actually. I go on vacation. In a sense, I'll be gone tomorrow morning. I go to Munich and I come back for a couple of days before flying to Greece for a couple of weeks, at least till mid-June. So it'll be sporadic during the time in Greece. I may do a show on Monday if it makes sense, but I'm not going to hold myself to that. If it makes sense in everything, I will do a show on Monday. I likely will. So those are the show notes for you. And yeah, let's get back to this work. Luca Bjornsten doing Microsoft Paint, doing a beach in Luca Bjornsten's wonderful style here. Again, nailing down the process. I don't know if there's wax. I don't know what it is. Maybe just kind of dabbing the paint. You can see it a little bit here, right? And we'll bring up some other works here. But nailing down the process where Luca Bjornsten can do basically anything now. And it looks pretty easy to make once you have your process, once you know your process, but you don't want to you don't want to overstate that. Easy to make, just like, you saw, what was it? Cy Twombly on the Joe Rogan show. I was seeing these clips go past my Instagram. Maybe you saw those, I could do that. No, you could not make, Cy Twombly, Joe Rogan. And that's worth keeping in mind as we say here, oh, easy to make. Not really, actually. Otherwise, everybody probably would have already done it. And a really consistent style as well here. And let's not underappreciate, which it often is, the selection of content. Doing not only in this first work here, not only do we see a beautiful sunset, incredible beach, as it's called here, great title, but we see it put in the frame of a Microsoft Paint user interface, right? So kind of weirdly overlapping, I'd say, in terms of content with a lot of what we see in the digital world here, which speaks to perhaps a point that this is kind of a generational thing, this looking back, this what we might call irony, maybe soft irony of looking back at these old computer softwares, particularly for people. I mean, I grew up in 1979, or I was born in 1979. I grew up as these softwares became available, and you never took them seriously, as a kid, because it's oh, well, these are crappy, basically was the point. I think now I take Microsoft Paint and all these other softwares way more seriously than I would have at any point in my life. Interestingly, now I think if I opened up Microsoft Paint, I'd probably have a lot of fun with it. But point being, framing the speech here within a Microsoft Paint user interface. And so there are a lot of things going on here. I would argue there's something generational going on here. This is a younger person's work in the sense of someone my age or lower, I dare say. I dare include myself in that. This is a younger person's, a newer generation's work. This also does the user interface. This is someone who grew up with screens, right? And, that's another very important thing to point out here. In a sense, I share a lot of concerns that Luca Bjornsten has. Back when I was painting more, say 15 years ago, I would paint screenshots, of Instagram, whatever else, which I don't know. I don't think they're on my current website. They're on the previous iteration. But all to say, so when I see this sort of stuff, I go, oh, nice approach. Very nice approach. And it is all in the execution, I have to say. This is beautifully executed here. And so, all to say, the choice of content is so good. It's like design. It's like why I call design the thankless profession. Why is design the thankless profession? Because speaking as someone who did design for 5 years as a graphic designer in Montreal, when you do a perfect job, people go, of course this is how it should be. Thanks. I guess you'd get the thanks when it's at 100%. When you get a 100% job, people say, great, of course it's supposed to be like this, not knowing all of the philosophy, really, the visual philosophy, design philosophy that is required to get to that, checkbox. If you do a 90% job, the first thing generally you get is criticism about how, this is, there's a problem here, there's a problem there, not seeing the big picture and all of the philosophy, so to speak, that goes in to making a work. And that's what I see here. It's really easy to look at this and just go, oh yeah, the previous one, a beach with Microsoft Paint, of course. Here, a calendar. Oh yeah, of course. And with these 2 beach chairs, of course. But actually, one could argue the genius here is in that decision that looks so obvious, I dare say. It's also in the process, the execution, which is, I don't want to call it everything, but which is crucial. Execution is crucial. Also interesting, because you can get 80% there, you can get 90% there as an artist, but you need to get 100, you need 100%, basically, arguably. At least in terms, and I say that loosely, okay? And so here, this is also brilliant. Contemporary visual language, vocabulary, here we have karaoke, right? And we're back to this concern with user interface. Interestingly as well, a combination of text and image. In a sense, we have image placed within the context of design, right? In all of these, even here, this, someone had to design the letters on top, and you see, okay, this is where I'm at singing this. It's telling me where to sing, right, in terms of timing. Here, interestingly, a different user interface, a puzzle, but nevertheless completely contemporary. And again, this little dolphin, this innocent little, dolphin, wonderfully innocent. Actually, in fact, all of these things, interestingly, they could all be seen as cliche, right? But in fact, as I began this show, when I look on into that beach, I'm there. When I look at these, this is like almost like a cliche ad from, I don't know, some travel vacation, right? Visit the Canary Islands, right? And but I'm there. Like, it's working in a sense. I don't go, oh, that's so cliche. And it almost speaks, I'd even argue a little bit, it almost speaks to, again, the brilliant choice of imagery here. It's back to that decision of, again, this very underappreciated aspect of art, particularly in this regard that is appropriated, which is the choice of reference, the choice of appropriation, the choice of image. What are you appropriating? And there's a lot of creativity that I would argue goes unappreciated in your choice of iconography, in your choice of reference. And so there's a lot to be said for that. Here, interestingly, Windows, is that Windows 95, right? Kind of looks like it, with, again, a palm tree, a beach, and then a storm in the background. So always kind of being contextualized somehow. Here, we have a sandcastle beautifully executed within the context of this Windows operating system, UI. Again, kind of retro. Again, a younger image, so to speak, and a younger spirit. In a sense, like, it's quite interesting. Like, I think of Jeff Koons' Hulk that we were looking at, or the Hulks. And you don't get the sense that there's not that youth, in a sense, even though it's using a comic book character and everything. But here you see youth, low battery. Who does that remind you of? Kayla Mattis, right? Another, more youth. We're seeing the new generation, I would argue, in the arts. We see it digitally. We're seeing it in painting, and we even see it in textiles with Kayla Mattis. The pieces of the puzzle are coming together here. In a sense, the generation will speak for itself. The voice is there, interestingly. So here's another. And it's almost, you think of Kayla Mattis, that textile worker with all the internet memes who we've looked at before. You think of, I think she may have done CAPTCHA as well, but here you have the palm trees as a unifying thread, or the beach as a unifying theme throughout. Quite a brilliant weaving. It's like, oh, okay, well, beach or sunsets, palm trees, beautiful things. Select all squares with palm trees. And people love palm trees. You want to make an artwork that sells? Like, put out a palm tree, right? And see what happens, right? Do an okay job on your palm tree and watch what happens. So people just naturally love this. And we have that same humor. What I sometimes call the new humor, this would be part of it. Again, where it's like skip, again, kind of this internet humor. So, all very interesting, isn't it? As we begin, and also to Luca Bjornsten's credit, look at this, adding a sculpture, creating some range, but look at these. Look at this outrageous, we saw it kind of in the calendar, a very, awkward, not in that case, but traditionally would be a very awkward composition. Look at this. This is like a DVD, if you can see that. Maybe I can make it bigger. It's always hard with Instagram. But you see like Jaws, and we see in the background these other paintings. But that is that's pretty radical. And again, I would argue, remember we saw, I think it was Oshishai, the Japanese illustrator doing, I believe it was CDs all in a row, almost like you were in a store or someone's massive CD collection, I believe it was, or DVDs, whatever it was. You're seeing similar concerns, similar perspectives, and again, to me, they all speak to a generation that grew up with this as their food, probably as children, their visual food. And so, it's interesting, is all I really have to say about that. I mean, we're almost back to a little bit of nostalgia here. the impact of nostalgia. Look at how this actually is nice because it shows the how Luca Bjornsten paints a little bit. You see the texture, you see the joy, really, and it looks like even carefully done where there's actually, it feels like a layer on top where these were painted separate pieces of paper or something that was probably thick and then put on top just like a sticker. Just gorgeous work here. And just enough texture. There's something kind of innocent, almost childlike about this work, which just makes you kind of excited. It brings you back to a certain degree. And I go, oh, I love those stickers. And then they're so beautifully done. And then you just have this wonderful combination of nostalgia combined with aesthetic beauty. And you really you hit something. You hit something aesthetically there. This is the opening, so doing fabulous. There's a duck at the opening. So glad to see a lot of people there. Fabulous artist. Let us continue here on our last show of the week here, our early Friday here, Cosmic Contrast. I love that. That was so fun. That question we got from Absurdity. Let's look at, this is also awesome. So comments, Kyle Flemmer. I started diving into the great courses on your recommendation. Already listened to hundreds of lectures on history this year. You know how much joy that gave me to read this, Kyle, if you're watching. This gave me an immense amount of joy to see this. And I believe they have affiliate links. So I'm going to put an affiliate link, hopefully actually for this show. I'm going to put it at the top. So you should be able to see it. Great courses. Because I don't mind I'm advertising the great courses known as Wondrium now anyway. Because I thought to myself as I read this, like, it's a pretty exciting, international digital art scene as it is. If you get people watching the great courses, it's going to be the most learned art scene ever, quite literally. If people are watching, because they're excellent. And I can go again, some of my favorites. Let's look quickly here. On our holiday show here, let's go to Wondrium. Let me see. The Great Courses Plus is the URL, and we'll see if it loads for us. So what is the name? So the Peloponnesian War is an excellent series. How on earth would I have ever gotten into the Peloponnesian War without this course? Where is this course? All these war lectures. Yeah, the history is often mostly the history of war. Where is the Peloponnesian War? Look at how many series. I guess you've put war in, but Peloponnesian should be at the top. So anyways. Greek and the Greek tragedy. Anyways, I could actually go on and on here, but this is just, but I do want to find, let me just put it into Google here. It is worth it because what I want to get you to is the professor who has many, maybe you've probably already come across this, Kyle, but for everybody else or for Kyle, if you've never seen it, this professor is one, Kenneth Harl. He does the Vikings. He's outstanding. He does a history, what is it called? With the nomadic empires of the steppes or barbarian empires of the steppes. The history really in the China and the Mongols and everything all the way, all to say, going all the way up to the Mongols, going from about 2000, maybe even earlier. And this incredibly important kind of nomadic area. Absolutely fascinating. Great professor here. So all to say, this is, I speak of a lifelong education. I could wax poetic, and maybe I will on a different show on the great courses. Thank you for the comment, and thank you for letting me know, and I'm really glad to hear that. Rada Yonki, awesome to hear from you. Appreciate your positivity and good vibes, my friend. wonderful artists there. Also on X, Seba Sestero, always great to hear your thoughts, Adrian. Thank you. Wonderful work from kind of surreal illustrator Seba Sestero out of Buenos Aires. Mr. K, awesome to hear from you and get the good vibes. Karma Cowboy, love your show. Thank you, Karma Cowboy. Great to hear. And it's great to see, like, I'm not sure I've seen too much of Karma Cowboy here. It's great to see the show continues to kind of trickle further into the ether here. Little Cakes, the no hygiene video is so good. Yes, please start a show with them at some point soon. It seems like an inevitability, doesn't it? As I said, I may have scooped myself with that comment. So hilarious and good to hear from you, Little Cakes. And yes, no hygiene is brilliant. Marietta, thanks for the mention, Adrian. Took your idea, minted it, and sent you an edition. Thank you. I saw that, Marietta. And great work. Just awesome. And I'm really glad that you minted those works. The static work over as well as the GLP. Thank you for sending me both. Romina, you're the best, and you curate the best ones. So thank you for the good vibes, Romina, and glad you enjoy it. Glad you appreciate the show. Likas, nice episode. Thank you. Juniper Paisley, sending the good vibes and the sushi icons. Big shout out to Juniper Paisley. Jan Lucas Magone, looking good. Thank you, sir. I believe we have a work by Jan Lucas Magone. If you want to get on the show, just put looking good on the comments here. I say in jest. Revolu. Better way to start the week with good artists. Thanks, Poco. You're more than welcome, Revolu. Thanks for the comment. Pedro Jose, what a coincidence. I'm just pouring my macchiato and your video pops up in my timeline. Life is good. Good to hear and wonderful vibes. Relaxers, so happy you like Voyager. Thank you. You're welcome. That was a very cool work. And Wojak missed quite a few episodes, but always a delight to view them in their entirety during leisure time. Well, wonderful to hear from you, Wojak, and glad to hear. Broadcasting from the inner parts of the nervous system. Yes, quite literally here, as you see, the nervous system is starting to exit my neck. So wonderful to hear from everybody. Thank you for the comments. I love this. Absurdeity, who of course I follow. Hey, Pocobelli, just had to share that I 100% agree with you that Men Without Hats is a sorely underrated band. It's a bit of a crime, as far as I'm concerned, what Canada and just frankly the music industry, I mean, let's not forget, these guys did Safety Dance. This is one of the most well-known songs in the world, and you still can't get the library of Men Without Hats like online in 2025. Like, because I mentioned, I'll go through the comment and I'll continue. Not only that, but their album Pop Goes the World is, in my humble opinion, one of the most underappreciated sleeper albums of all of the 80s and 90s. I completely agree. It's a masterpiece. As my friend Brian Kotz put it in Saskatoon to me 20 years ago, it's almost like the progression of someone with schizophrenia or something. Like, it's a very interesting, kind of actually quite high-level artistic project, Pop Goes the World. And so, yeah, I completely agree. And musically brilliant. I mean, every song is good. Beyond the superficially seeming candy sweet title song, this is an album with both complex music and a story arc. If CDs could be worn out, my copy would have been from all the play it got. Yeah, well, I agree. Why the sudden message about Men Without Hats? Because I'm on Artist Journal episode 179, where you shared Last Dance by Ex Mortal, which had lyrics from the biggest hit in the description. So hilarious. So I guess Safety Dance. And what was interesting, I don't know if I mentioned it there, but I consider one way of thinking about Men Without Hats is I call them Canada's Kraftwerk, because they put out this. Ivan was never really celebrated by the country as he should have been, which is so true. Canada never, again, some of the greatest musicians out of the country and still kind of ignored, it's an outrage, which is why I kind of emphasize this so much. As I said, Freeways is also brilliant. Get this, was not familiar with Freeways as it was limited Canadian-only release. Doesn't look like I get it on Spotify either, and that's why I call them Canada's Kraftwerk. I mean, Freeways seems like a beautiful homage, in a sense, or at least response to Autobahn, but completely in their own vibe. I mean, you saw it with Gary Newman and Cars and all that. So it was in the air. You saw, Crash with Ballard was also in the ether. You had Joy Division doing the Atrocity exhibition at the beginning of Closer. Ian Curtis, I was going to say famously, but not many people know, his two biggest influences were Burroughs and Ballard. And it shows in the writing. So I looked up Freeways. I was curious. I was like, can you get this even on YouTube? And they have one mix. They have the Euro mix on YouTube, which is pretty good, but there's several mixes. But I realized I had it on cassette. Freeways. And there was 4 different versions, and you could just listen to the whole thing through because the different versions would be slightly different. It was awesome. So again, it just goes to show you can be a brilliant artist, you can have #1 hits, and people can still, for whatever reason, it can still be kind of lost. It's so interesting. I really appreciate that comment, Absurdity. Ex-Mortal, and just like that, Safety Dance will be stuck in my head for days. Don't even have to hear it. Merely think about it. Right? I mean, just one of the biggest tracks ever. So now, did I lose us? Did I lose us here? Oh, no, that was just a comment that we found here. So good. Okay, we're doing well. Just a little show, not a show note, not at this point. Financial Times Art Basel launches new art fair in Qatar. The fair will run in February 2026 and cements the Middle East as the next frontier in the global art market. So very interesting. Very interesting. And I think what we're seeing here is there's a lot of money in the Middle East, I think, is what's going on. And so the people at Art Basel are probably thinking to themselves, we should have something set up in the Middle East. So there we go to Qatar. 2026, that's not far. That's less than a year away, February 2026. So very interesting. This was quite interesting too. Angry Tom, it's over. Google just dropped VO 3, the best AI video model in the world. There's no way to tell anymore. Here are 10 insane examples. I'll just show a little bit of this. But as you see here, it is getting pretty good. It's weirdly empty though.
They're watching the north exit. Use the service tunnel.
According to this old sea chart, the lost island isn't myth. We must prepare an expedition immediately. This ocean, it's a force.
So what I find so interesting about this, again, visually convincing, audio convincing, but there's something off. There's a hollowness, isn't there? Which I find interesting just from a cultural studies perspective, for lack of a better term. Weirdly empty, but you're not sure where to pinpoint the error. Maybe it's everything being a little too perfect. Maybe that's what it is. There's not enough reality, there's not enough roughness on the edges. Interestingly, I mean, imagine that'll get worked out too at some point. So everything maybe is just a little too perfect, and maybe it lacks soul, weirdly. Anyways, Raoul Pal. I'm trying to endlessly get across a couple of core messages in the world of the exponential age and currency debasement, the mega trends. You don't own enough crypto. When you do, you don't own enough NFTs. As art is upstream of wealth, both will never be this cheap again. And so when I saw this, you kind of think to yourself, as I like to do with my kind of Mr. Burns-like hat on, you kind of think it is fun to think about how unbelievably, I sure hope this is true. Because maybe things work out for all us Tezos artists in the end, even us artists on Tezos. And it does seem like there's an inevitability to it. So interesting thoughts. Now, Raoul Pal is saying to all those asking me where to start, if you can't afford a punk, so, mostly crypto art, then choose X Copy Art, who has very thoughtfully curated different price points and scarcity. So not everybody can afford that. But all to say, just buy a punk as a starter. So different circles of financial wealth, I think Raoul is talking to, but so be it. So let's hope so. That could be wonderful. This was pretty cool. Kind of a work in progress from Uxine. Of course, I follow Uxine. This is looking really cool. And what I almost wanted to point out here are these interesting backgrounds as we look at this work in progress. Just really nice, fun, cool colors too in this work by Uxine. I guess a pastiche, and there is an eye. So just kind of cool process shot. Here is Quampa. Nothing but love for my collectors. Cool physical here from Quampa. Very nice, kind of matte here, framed in black. It looks pretty good, doesn't it? And this is another thing. You know, I'm kind of back, and I say this to myself as much as to anybody who's watching, any artist who is watching, which is, it's great making digital, and I'm all for it, and I can't stop doing it, because why make a physical when you can make digital for free and sell it on a market, you know, instantaneously, get all the money, I don't need to store it, on and on, we've discussed before. But it's very important. I think especially if you have the aspiration to be in a museum, to be in galleries, I really think you need physical. Is kind of what, at least at this point, judging on what we saw, I think it was last episode where we were looking, or the last couple episodes, we were looking at how an institution was showing digital art, and what you notice is, yeah, there's some old TVs that they were putting works on, but ultimately there was a whole bunch of physical work. And when you go to, you know, contemporary art, you know, museums or shows that have digital, you're still looking at mostly, I would argue, physical work that started digitally. And so I just think it's pragmatic, and it's also good for you as an artist. It's a completely different medium, interestingly. And I think it's good for you as an artist to do physical, and so I think this is great, and I think it looks great. So very cool. So Mutsai, Thankus, UPC, super nice, Thankus. We'll be holding a joint exhibition. This is what I wanted to highlight, though, which I thought was funny. I made a DM, and it was ridiculously difficult to take a CRT photo, and I think this person is talking about taking a photo of a TV, and I thought that was funny because, and this is all I think in Japanese. That is funny because many of you will have tried to have taken a picture of a screen, whether it's a computer monitor or a TV, and knows exactly what this person is talking about, how difficult it is. I mean, there is a time. Another beautiful thing about digital is you don't need to worry about things being small. But there was a time where you'd have a low resolution file and you'd be like, how am I gonna, it's impossible to make this bigger. So I thought, oh, maybe a hack is I put it on my screen and then I take a picture of it with a high resolution camera or a higher resolution camera, and then maybe I can blow it up and maybe it'll somehow work. And so, yeah, but usually then you get like a reflection across it or some sort of weird thing will start to happen. Stuff like this. See this right here? This is what starts to happen is you start to get these kind of weird lines across the screen because you're literally freezing the moment where the screen is blinking in front of you, I think is what's going on. Kyle Flemmer, speaking of small works here. So these works are tiny. And so again, something we've been kind of released from in the digital world, when you can release things digitally, and especially if you do it as pixel art, you can make this gigantic. So all very cool. Kyle Flemmer's The Space Program, love that title. My first solo exhibition in Calgary. So this is great too. I think this is the solution, actually, for the Tezos art scene, which is to start making inroads into galleries. And I use the word Tezos art scene loosely. I'm talking about, just artists on the blockchain. I say go to galleries. Don't worry about the crypto art scene embracing you and everything. Go straight to the galleries is where I'm at. And so I think that's the solution. So I think this is great. And so good for Kyle Flemmer. Looks great. Wonderful. Can't wait to see photos of the show. This is also, this is from Hermipe. Hermipe, if you send me a request with what you like about it, I might add it. So I thought these are pretty, considering how minimal these works are, it kind of looks like a snail. I'm not even sure what this is. They're pretty nice, I would argue. Look at this. These are pretty nice works. Nice gray background. And so just beautiful pixel art works. Nice little small one. This kind of looks like a bird over here on the right. right? So just very interesting, incredibly minimal, but I'd say quite well done, for so few pixels. Speaking of well done, this is amazing. Kareem Safa, seed 124107, minting live. So this is on infiniteink.art. So this is kind of, the way it's been described to me is like a manifold for Tezos, interestingly. So here's actually, before we look at the work, but if you can't mint yet, I'm not a big fan of waitlists, but maybe they have to do this because it's a beta and they're testing things out. So you just probably have to wait. I'll just wait for them to open. I'm not gonna, I'm like, maybe I'm scarred from 2021, but I am completely over like, oh, please, can I be on the list and the, allow list and all this sort of thing. I'm just so over that. So anyways, let's continue. So this is Kareem Safa. Look at this work, this pixel art work. Spectacular piece, as you can see here. And this is available, I think, on Tezos, on the Infinite Ink Art platform. So very elaborate. And going down to 1 pixel like that. This is awesome. Right? Just very cool. Love the dragging and everything. The crookedness, and then there, brushstroke. What a talent Kareem Safa is, minting live. So let's see what the deal is. 5 Tezos. It's only 5 Tezos. InfiniteInk.art. Open for another 1 day and 7 hours. Get it while you can. Only 70 minted. What a deal. That is so cool. So, Kareem Safa on Infinite Ink. How rad is that? How rad is this? So, as we continue our our museum of the future here, online internationally, who is this? This is Deadly Yuka, also known as Momo. No comment, just this brilliant work of art. Old gas station. You know what my favorite part is? Maybe right there, where the car is kind of at a crooked or like on a slant. So this is just such a classic, situation here. Let me see if I can make this bigger, because remember we were seeing, say with Cassern, and someone was mentioning, maybe it was Kyle Flemmer, maybe it was someone, or maybe it was Manny, maybe it was someone else. Maybe it was someone else who was saying, actually, I think it was the pesky artist, Ed Woods. It was Ed Woods who was saying, actually, it's the software you can use which can emulate these different textures and old screens and everything. Yeah, over here. This is probably my favorite part. Maybe you have your favorite part. I also love the palette. I love the palette. And how many colors do we have here? We have green, let's call it brown, white, and black. It looks like 4 colors, but it doesn't feel like it's lacking anything, does it? Again, this is, you get rid of the texture. This is screaming for Bitcoin, but I'm not sure if it's going to be as poetic without this kind of noisy texture that we see here. It does add something. So all to say, super interesting work. Let's continue. Martin Bruce with a fascinating work here, kind of painterly, snake graffiti. Always unpredictable, and as I always say, he thinks with his eyes, always original. It's part of the joy and the luckiness we have as consumers of art. A part of the joy of seeing of following, say, Martin Bruce, is you don't know what's going to happen next. You really don't know, and that is great. Unpredictability is so important. Predictability, as I like to put it, unpredictability is the hallmark of good art. If things get predictable, my example was always like some Lady Gaga song from like the 2000s. I had never heard it before, and I already knew what the next rhyme was going to be in the song. So, and so for me, that kind of, reduced its appeal. If it was like I'd never even heard it before, and I already knew how the song was supposed to go or what they were going to say, it's not the most satisfying. This is the opposite. This is unpredictability. I don't know what Martin Bruce is going to do tomorrow. And wonderfully, I don't think Martin Bruce knows what he's going to do tomorrow. And you just know it's going to be interesting and cool, as it is here. Snake graffiti, as it's called. Maybe a snake on the side. It's almost like this stream of consciousness. There's brushwork that is done, though. It's almost like very painterly. Maybe taken, of course, Martin Bruce works physically, also to his credit. Maybe taken from a physical painting. So let's see if we have no bids yet, but has been doing very well, bringing in, looks like a couple of $100 a day with one of ones. So pretty awesome. Yuri J. Rooms. So look at how unbelievably textured these are. So Yuri J. putting the pedal to the metal in terms of texture here. Let's push. Let's see how far we can, texturize these things, which have an appeal of like almost like impressionist paintings here to some degree, but digital impressionism, so to speak. And there's the little mosaic. Have to put the mosaic. You can't not put the mosaic in. And so all to say, cool. It looks like a bed. Oops. And let's just see. We'll do a quick look here. Now, is this the same composition? It is. I believe this is the same composition, just treated differently. So another, exactly what we have here, just treated differently. A very digital situation here, right? I mean, these are the kinds, as physical artists or artists that work with painting look on this show, and I know there are some, these are the kinds of interesting situations you get working digitally. Of course, yes, you can screen print and do different things, but here Yuri J can just go a third the way through the process, copy, right? And then all of a sudden, and then just kind of re-begin on this copy, and then it goes in a completely different direction, you might say, texturally speaking, and ends up with basically a completely different work. You could do this, infinitely. Interesting. Here's Waffles with a beautiful work, Kujeb. Metal Machine Muzak, playing off of the famous Lou Reed Noise album. Some really good, of course, original music by Kujeb. Look at that, 9 minutes. Let me see if I can make this bigger. There we go. Love up here. Pretty awesome. Seeing themselves on the screen here. And the music's pretty rad. The fuzzed out floor, even over here on the right. It's us. The music's awesome. Who does that sound like? That sounds like some sort of industrial band. Not Fetus. I have a feeling Kujeb's going to know who Fetus is. Yeah. Anyways, always awesome. Always awesome from Kujeb. Here's Juana Pedro, Night Guard. A nice piece. Oh, this is May 19th, 2025, but it says 2024 there. Another rad abstract from Juana Pedro. Here, just super original digital abstract artist, I think, is how you'd call it. So maybe you can put an off. Oh, there's 0 editions left. So now, okay, you can get it for $7.50. So this is probably the newer version. Pretty reasonable for these really cool abstracts there. Nothing quite like Juana Pedro's work. Oblivion Fields, Chorus. So another kind of repeating figure here. Done with these like super textures. Beautifully done here by Oblivion Fields. A newer artist to the program here as we constantly kind of shift the focus ever so slightly with each passing episode. So interesting piece here as ever. Edition of 1, 70 Tezos. And we have 2 bids, excitingly here. Absurdeity and Daggy D, patrons. And actually, I think Daggy D, actually, we're going to see the Pixel Fool work. Thank you, Daggy D, for sending me the Pixel Fool. Those aren't cheap. That is 77 Tezos, I think. We'll see it in a second. Its chromatic operations evoke the impossibility. So here, big title from Ed Marola, selling quite well here. 165 Tezos, selling about $100 US here for this cool work by Ed Marola. As you see, this improvisation. And so kind of like Luca Bjornsten, once you get your process, basically, I don't want to say Ed Marola, I don't know, will ever have the process nailed down, but once you get a process that's working for you, because he's always evolving. But once you have it, then you can just start to have fun. It's a lot funner, in a sense, painting as an improvisation than as some well thought out, constructed plan. That's not necessarily as fun. So there's a lot to be said for, just improvising. If you don't improvise, it's a fun thing to do. I did it on the Pixel Art Inferno, and it's a really fun way to work. I could do that more. Nov 1914, Lago por la Noche. Again, playing with the frame. The frame is almost entering the canvas here. Is almost entering the subject matter. Interestingly, there we almost see the frame as well. But maybe it's just this black frame. Maybe I am misreading it, and this is just the water. But the experimentation continues with the wonderful Nov 1914, the inimitable Nov 1914, edition of 7 for 12 Tezos. Here's Renniefish, picked up by Neon Monk, 210 Tezos. The market just continues to be healthy here. It's never died. Since I've started this show, this market has never died. It's never been like nothing selling. And even when people say the market is struggling, it doesn't it seems to be, it's not struggling. It's never struggled like my internet. Let's just put it that way. So I'll just say, here's a little, we can't show all 48 seconds anyways, but you get a picture of Renniefish's work. Very nice piece. Again, selling for something like $200. 270 Tezos, I think. Take another quick look. And selling fast, by the way. There we go. Soothing, cool work from Renniefish. Yeah, 210 Tezos, $127. So nice sale by Renniefish within hours of posting it. Here's Mumbleboy. Bright Within on a Rainy Day, edition of 1 for 18 Tezos. So nice one of one here, combining pixelation and collage. And yeah, so cool work here from Mumbleboy, whose name I love to say here. So again, you can see the physical, you can see the digital, doing a pretty good job of combining the two. Also using the eraser in certain areas. Very cool work. Only 18 Tezos. Here's Yuri J again under the Yuri JJJ account. This is for the zombie formalist. There's some NFT zombie formalism. I'll open up that page here quickly. And here, cool portrait. Actually, you see all of the rich texture that we're seeing in the bedroom. Same artist, right? So nice. Maybe this is supposed to be a zombie. Not sure. Portrait of an artist as a young zombie formalist. Interesting. So, I couldn't show, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I can't show everything. Oh, there's August Ground. Cool. Actually, I'll bring that up quickly, just because August Ground deserves some attention here. But as you see, I guess the Ed Marola work. So, I just want to give you a little taste here for those that are curious about the zombie formalism show. So, nice pieces. We'll see a few of these pieces in here. As we see August Ground. As a zombie formalist, doing a zombie formalist work. Nice piece, kind of reminds me of that abstract minimal artist who, what is his name? Not Judd. Who knows? Reality Chop Shop #1, Zombie Dreams of Green Honey and Money, edition of 1, and at auction for 25 Tezos. Here's the myth. Who is X-Zombie? So also for that show, interesting. A little bit of what looks like glitch or something. Interesting. And there is the myth as a zombie. And we see reality starting to break down there. airbrushed out clouds. So a different kind of work from Myth. This is at auction for 25 Tezos. Couple of bids so far, starting at 1 Tezos. Now we're at 25. Here is Canuck Zapata. So another with this kind of more cartoony looking series. Again, looking like the Stable Diffusion and the Python Cellular Automata. Totally unique patterning. Nothing quite like these works, is there? So again, using Python. I believe, among other things, edition of 10 for 4 Tezos. Here is Sabato, big art collector, rebel without a cause, KAWS. And so interesting commentary here. So we see this beautiful violet, indigo almost, and with what looks like kind of a crypto art-esque piece here on the wall, a reference to cause, and not exactly sure what the reference is of the person, but kind of a fun work, isn't it? Self-referential a little bit. This is for Zombie Formalism, made with Deluxe Paint 4, edition of 44 for 11 Tezos, pretty reasonable. Let's continue. Low Trippy, Movie Magic. So fun work here by Low Trippy. Kind of looks like a movie theater, but it is exiting the screen. You see the popcorn down there. Doing very well, if I recall, on Instagram. Low Trippy, so that is pretty cool. Here's Dan Anthony Kelly, Draw Dog Tuesday. Not sure if that music is copyright, so I'll just leave it up. I think it is. Dump Truck, Make a Move, so just something you can post on Instagram, but don't want to put it on the YouTube video here. Move It, and there's the dog there, a recording of the screen. Very interesting series. Here's Time, who of course I follow. Pretty cool work here. Sampled brush, love this kind of, love this kind of almost waterfall-like movement, a curved movement, just kind of original piece, nice and minimal. Beautiful piece from Cap'n, Prompt. Nice textured work here. Beautiful computer from Cap'n. We'll see where that ends up. Jean Provencher, Hello World. So of course Jean Provencher kind of beats to his own drum, so to speak. Not sure, has released some work on Ethereum. Not a ton, I don't think. I don't know if they've ever released on Tezos, if he's ever released on Tezos, but had the show at the Museum of the Moving Image after Sabato. Remember that in New York? So just interesting artist, does really well on social media. We've looked at their work before. This is quite interesting over here at the bottom right. It kind of looks like a Doom type situation with the figure pointing the weapon. And there you even see like where the target is, that little green area. Always interesting renderings here of pixels. And yeah, I mean, just hello world, perhaps an irony there, and these different kinds of pixels here. So just always interesting. What does it say in here? Just nothing. Just posted, 12,000 views. Nice response there. Here is Macrometry. Love this piece here. Fantasy Computer. Collect for 1 Tezos, an edition of 24. Very nice piece here. Very cool. Often doing some kind of mostly abstract, but here kind of more of a representational work. Nice piece with these kind of textured pixels. Here's Byte by Bit. KidPix 3D use 3D glasses for the best experience. So you see red and blue. I guess it probably turns into a 3D like sky when you put on 3D glasses, and then some beautiful. It looks like the surface of a planet out there. Very nice piece. 20 Tezos, edition of 1. Here's Hiza. What does it say here? It's a nice morning. So some nice pixel art on X. Doing pretty well here too. Some power lines with a sunrise. Here is Sui Soichi, a new work, Dark Dyad. So some pixel art, again, with some kind of noisy type textures. And here, kind of fantasy-like, probably coming out, nice asymmetry here, probably coming out of Sui Soichi's imagination, if I had to guess. Some cool characters, letters on the left, alien characters. Always interesting and kind of mysterious and enigmatic. Here's another piece. Same thing going on here, just an enigmatic figure, quite poetic. This look, this sci-fi situation. Here is Enigmatris. Kind of looks like a Venus of sorts in terms of the position, but looks, kind of looks like Botticelli's Venus, but I don't think that looks like more like a photograph of someone trying to do Botticelli's Venus. Interestingly, Great color there. Put Your Life at Stake. This is the Kurt Hustle Collective for a Comparts drop here. So there it is. There is the piece of steak and the money. Put Your Life at Stake with Kurt Hustle Collective. Always cool. Edition of 5 for 25 Tezos. Here's Feels. And yeah, this was the work. I was surprised to see I owned one. I scrolled down and there was Daggy D. So thank you, Daggy D. Not cheap, 77 Tezos. So a wonderful addition to the museum in my mind here. And look at this beautiful work by Feels. I don't know if I have a Feels. I think that's a good question. I think I do, but I've never paid like 77. Like I've probably got, I don't know if I have a Feels. So it might have a good, fill a nice gap in the collection. All to say, it's always original. Love this texture out here. That's kind of dragging, almost a little bit of a feedback of these, again, just kind of hypnotizing. Like droplets in an intricate water puzzle falling. I listen carefully. Edition of 11. A nice small edition. Now 130 Tezos on secondary. As we continue here, here's Kennick Zapata again, but this is institutional critique. So not sure what's going on here. There was a reference to the Jeff Koons Hulk. Yeah, welcome to the bloated funeral of meaning, where every inflated Hulk is an MFA grad who took interdisciplinary practice too literally and now makes beats out of fish and trauma. So maybe a criticism of the Hulk, not sure, but doing Kennick Zapata's own spin, turning it into an octopus. So interesting piece there. And there's the Hulk. There is the inflated Hulk. So interesting. Here is the isolationist footballer. A cool piece here, nice textured, kind of always doing seemingly the portrait, bust portrait from the isolationist edition of 1 for 350 Tezos. Here's Ezra Eslin in our closing minutes here. A kind of an edgy work of someone, an aficionado of financial markets here. And so here, a little bit of Mario Brothers also in the background, which is pretty cool, along with the financial charts, kind of edgy work as usual. 5 Tezos, edition of 77. So another reasonably priced work here on infiniteink.art. Jan Lucas Magone, Obey. Cool work here. Another video from Jan Lucas Magone. So cool. I think, is this called, yeah, Human Nature, Keyword Power. And there you see, so almost atavistic, archaic, primal work from Jan Lucas Magone. Ed Woods, who of course I follow. Interesting piece here. Hearts in one drink, money on the other. Almost maybe a commentary on dating. Not sure. Nice piece. Nicely executed. Love the lines across. Here's Nativet with a work. We'll see if there's any volume. And just a cool animated work here, as you see, going through the digital ether, this figure. How's it doing? 46 retweets, 158 likes, pretty good. Here's Acid Boy with the animated abstract. And this is a GIF, amazingly. And what again, as I like to call him, the master of psychedelic abstraction, Acid Boy. Here's Renki with a rad work, Shuku Nohe. Maybe that's a subway station. Look at how beautiful this is. Great use of color, very painterly, very effective, brilliant. Another brilliant work by Renki, 33 Tezos, edition of 1. Get it while you can. Tamagawa, edition of 10, 3 Tezos. So nice work here. Kind of a different style here, or different workings in this one with these white cubes. So it continues to evolve. Here is Uran Yacon, stream number 47, picked up by Daggy D. Really nice piece here. Again, playing with different textures of a stream. This sold for 20 Tezos, pretty reasonable. Here's another one. Available, not available, listed. Actually, I think it is available. It may have just been listed. So cool work here too by Uran Yacon. You can see the stream. And stream number 49. Here's Wavebreak by Ex Mortal, edition of 13. So these landscapes, these beach-like landscapes, continuing to do really well. Beautiful execution. Sold out at 11 Tezos each. Here's Skamra, picked up by Daggy D for 150 Tezos at auction. So $91, Perch or Francis Bacon's study after Velasquez's portrait of Pope Innocent X. I think I know where that is. If I'm not mistaken, that is at Palazzo Pamphili in Rome, close to Piazza Venezia. If I am remembering correctly, Palazzo Pamphili is well worth going to. It might inspire you. Like, there is a problem. Like, I go there and I go, I don't want to live in anything other than a palazzo like Palazzo Pamphili. So I'm not sure if I'll ever reach that goal, but yeah. Anyways, look at how beautiful this is. So cool art historical homage, very original. Going to Degidi for 150 Tezos. Here is Scamra again, just posting on X, playing with these cubes a little bit. These textured cubes, someone walking down the street, and it's really getting abstract here. Not even sure what's going on here. But it does look cool, which is why I am thrilled to share it here. And these interesting little textures in there. Not sure what's happening in this one, but it looks great. Love the direction. Here's Deepest Well. I Care Because You Do, edition of 5 for only 1 Tezos. So very reasonably priced AI art. I believe this is AI. It says generative, but it kind of, I mean, it kind of looks like AI over here, but I'm not positive. It says generative. So interesting. I believe that was posted in the community. Thank you for posting there, by the way. I do check it every show. HP Lovebucks, Secret Helicopter. This is a pretty hilarious work, actually. You can see the little helicopter there in the background, just which changes the entire composition. The significance, doesn't it? It just completely changes it. Very interesting piece from HP Lovebucks. Here is Francesca Facchiola, a dog on a computer with some weird kind of eyeballs seemingly kind of floating up here. Pretty interesting painting. Painting's getting really exciting, you know, from Instagram. So Machine, here's another interesting painting, very contemporary here. Are these prints? Are these just different, maybe different versions of the same work is what this looks like. Cool work from Machine. Here's Robert Nava, whose work we're seeing at the Pace Gallery here in Berlin for Gallery Weekend. Quite an artist, kind of a new people have known about Robert Nava, but a bit of a new discovery for me. Nice combination of different mediums. Like here you see airbrush, here you see kind of more traditional textured painting. Maybe there's some oil stick, perhaps, in this kind of little wing here, kind of expressionist. All very interesting. And the cat, pretty good social media feed too, I have to say. Nice drawing. Again, kind of this neo-expressionist. Feels like it's in the tradition of Basquiat, somewhat, but not entirely, but somewhat, you know, mark making. What I also find interesting about this is there's no master stroke here. It's all in the process. Like you see here, it's not like this is, I don't know if you can see this, but it's not like this is some super brilliant brushwork here. This is just combining. It's the contrast where this all works. And that's what makes it so smart. Same with here. You see this line that goes over here? It's the process. So you don't need to be like, you know, Leonardo here. It's about the process, I would argue. Very interesting work. Here's another one. Continuing on the video game theme, Jesse Morseberger. So looks like Mario on a phone with maybe some messaging. So traveling through the mediums, indeed. Traveling through the consoles. Traveling through the hardware. Here's Ray Klein. It's Not Gallery posting this. And some cool, very kind of wide, stretched out planes here on a bright orange background. More exciting painting. It's Not Gallery, really at the forefront of that, as we've commented before. Moto Hero. Another surreal illustration here from Moto Hero. Always original, always fun. And that is your show, my friends. So I'll see you hopefully on Monday. If not, it'll be sporadic after that. I'll be on the beach there, where what you saw I opened this show with. Until next time, take care.